shot an email to a friend of mine, and they immediately sent back the clip from Friends where Ross, I think, is trying to get a couch down this narrow apartment stairs with Chandler, and he keeps saying, pivot, 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 and the couch just obviously won't fit, and he keeps yelling, pivot. And I feel like startups sometimes do the same thing. The couch is just not going down the stairs. You can pivot all you want, it's not working. So sometimes that doesn't work, but hopefully we'll talk to some entrepreneurs where pivoting is actually working for them. We'll get some rationale as to why they did what they've done. Definitely still a work in process for a lot of these folks, so they're learning as well as they go through this, so I hope it's a value to you guys as well. So let me start off by introducing our panel briefly, and then I'm going to go to each of them and they can talk about what their company is currently working on and who they are. So starting on the far right, we have Josh Moulton of Need Fixed Parts is here. We also welcome him. Yeah, thank you. As I mentioned earlier, we have Mottern with Hey Let's Train. We have Chris Deck with Deck Commerce, who's here tonight. And last but not least, Kirk Bowman from Zipline. So maybe I'll stick with that order for now. And Josh, maybe you guys talk a little bit about what your company does. What is Need Fixed Parts and what are you doing today?
Yeah, so we're just an online distributor for parts for cell phone repair shops. You drop your phone, break it, screen, battery, whatever. We supply those parts to repair shops across the country, and we've just expanded into Canada as well. So we try to make an easy platform for them to get the parts they need quick, and by being located here in the Midwest, it's really helped us with shipping, getting people parts they need a little bit faster than other places. So it's primarily what we do.
Cool, thank you. Aaron, what's Hey Let's Train all about?
So we have two tracks of business. On the public side, we work with fans that connect them to professional athletes so the fan can do their same exact workout. And on our collegiate enterprise side, we work with national sports teams, colleges, and high schools to provide them an athlete performance management system.
Cool. Chris, talk a little bit about Deck Commerce if you would.
We're a technology company. We've been focusing on e-commerce for 15 or so years. I'll talk about the pivot in a minute, but our software helps back-end e-commerce operations process more orders faster and cheaper. So it's a middleware automation solution that helps mid-market businesses grow and scale.
Cool. Great. And Kirk, Zipline.
Yeah, so we live broadcast, so live broadcasting. You mentioned Periscope earlier. You can also archive your videos, but the thing that makes us unique is money. So you can send money to any channel, and channels can partner with each other and with money. So lots of possibilities around that. So I'll take this live broadcast back to my office. We'll put it on there.
You said money, you got everybody's attention.
That's right.
Just the whole audience went crazy. So let's start with the obvious question. You guys are all working on independent, different things. You articulated that really well. Aaron, if I could start with you. What is Hey Let's Train where it currently is now? What did you pivot from, or what was that like for you?
So for us, the pivot wasn't that hard. We really changed verticals. So when you look at our business today versus when it was in the medical space, you literally can draw a line in a platform feature and almost a client perspective of that change. The biggest change for us was the trajectory that we're on now, working with celebrity athletes and big brands and teams and colleges. Vastly different sales cycle. In the medical world, you have to have white papers and for this and go through insurance and all that other fun stuff. Through working with the people we get to work with, it's a few conversations, some other lengthier things that we need to do, and then we have a client.
And how did you see that opportunity? Was it people you knew? Was it something you'd already been thinking about?
So this opportunity has always been in our business model from day one. It was one of our verticals that we always wanted to go after. It took us 40 years to get our first athlete conversation. Kind of the way that worked is our tele-rehab model is based on in-care and then post-care. Post-care, we work with trainers and medical trainers. We had a particular trainer in the DC, Maryland area that trains professional athletes. Took 3 years to get that relationship built. took another year to get him to allow me to come meet his athletes. And then after that lovely meeting in July of 2014, we became a sports company and started working toward that perspective.
Cool. Chris, let me shift over to you, if you don't mind. So you're a little bit different in terms of the pivot. You had probably a company for many, many years in the IT services space.
Yeah.
And you guys made a pivot over to more of the product platform
Right.
company. What's that?
So, my company is actually 17 years old, and for the first 15 years, we provided professional service, so time and material project-based work to help businesses that were struggling with technology issues to really get their e-commerce operations fine-tuned and dialed in. And what we saw over the years, time and time again, is we were solving essentially the same problems with each customer. And as kind of a project-based company, you know, even though you had some knowledge and some expertise, you had to redo the project each time. And we started to realize, for a variety of reasons, that if we could create one product that then could service multiple customers, that would be so much better way for us to scale and leverage our capabilities. So for a couple years, we had this code project at our company. We called it G3. It was the third generation of our product. And at the beginning of the year, we said we're going to get G3 ready as a beta. And at the end of the year, no work had been done because we were focused 100% on the paying customers from the professional services. So 2 years ago, for a couple of reasons, we were forced and challenged ourselves to make the pivot. And so what we did is what we've tried to do is take those 15 years of consulting experience, turn it into a commercial product that is generic enough to handle any customer that we could imagine being on the product. And you know, it took us about a year to do the R&D to get all that knowledge transitioned into our first product. And our product launched 1 year ago this month. And so far the response has been awesome. We're getting great feedback from customers, we're getting great feedback from prospects, and great feedback from the industry.
And I would imagine after running a services business for so long, which has sort of a perpetual lifespan, it just sort of gradually increases in revenue over time, you're now running a product company, and that means you're running a company that you hope gets bought, or has a finite end and an exit. What's that been like for you to sort of as a business owner? What kind of mindset change was that?
You know, it's a big mindset change because as a I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm still at my heart relatively conservative. And yeah, having a nice professional service business is great. We had good margins. We were very profitable. And it took me a while to kind of really start thinking bigger and to do those graphs where you can see what your growth prospects could be. And instead of capping out at 5 million, you know, it's 50 million, and you're thinking, wow. But it's been a slow transition to really embrace that and to really start thinking in a product way.
Sure.
But yeah, it's fun.
We can maybe follow up on more of that, but I want to move on to Kirk. Kirk, you sounds like you're in a very emerging, fluid marketplace, right? Maybe one that hasn't really defined itself that well. So, you know, are you pivoting every day? Are you pivoting? What's that, like in terms of defining your market and figuring out what it is that you're developing?
Right. That's a good question. You know, when you look at product market fit, and then and Chris mentioned time, like in this world, like, 9 months can go by and things change in the market, and what happened to us is we had an opportunity come to us to partner with Rackspace, and broadcast video became a thing in the last year. Like the first we started hearing about it was South by Southwest last year. It feels like it's been around for a long time, but South by Southwest starts next week, so we're like at week 51 of that, and so it was kind of a fairly new thing. And so and then we did a deep dive on the other companies that have pivoted. Like we might, some of the people in the room might know the names like Odeo, Bourbon, and Glitch, but you would better know them as Twitter, Instagram, and Slack, because they pivoted, right? And we looked at why did those companies pivot, and then wanted to see if the same reasoning. And a lot of times, oddly enough, those 3 companies all pivoted to something smaller and simpler than what they made originally, if you want to look at, and so we are then, so when you talk about the possibilities, when you give the world fewer things, it makes them more creative. So we wanted to get away from this idea of saying we're going to make a tool that's for a specific, we were asked a lot of these early startup questions, and these aren't bad questions, they're just not always like, what is your addressable market? Who are your first customers? What is your ideal customer? Those are good questions. They're not for everybody. What would Twitter have said about their addressable market, or Instagram?
Right.
Or what would they have said as their ideal customer? So anyway, we followed those folks.
Yeah, no, that's great. Josh, I would imagine, in your line of work, I mean, everybody has one of these. Everybody's probably broken one of these at some point, right? So you're in a place where there's customers everywhere, there's commodity parts, I would imagine. What about what's disruptive and innovative about where you guys are looking at pivoting and what you've experienced with your business at ITEN?
Right. So we had originally started out just as kind of a software platform where we wanted to offer kind of a Yelp-style search directory to where you can go online based on your location, or if you're traveling somewhere, you break your phone at the airport, whatever, you can place an order, schedule an appointment, do whatever to get your phone fixed, and we're kind of a a la carte to where you can do everything rather than having to Google search, find all these reviews. Yelp's never accurate. They're slowly, just it seems like they're dying as far as their honesty for reviews. So I wanted to build something different, have a little bit more just focus on the cell phone repair industry because I knew how big it was. We'd kind of been doing it for a while. I had the website built, wasn't happy with the end result of what our developer had come up with, so one of our mentors had asked us, in the meantime, while we were doing this, is, where do these guys get their parts from? Your target market is all these cell phone repair shops. Why aren't you trying to help them some other way right now to get some revenue while you're still waiting for maybe the final product of your website? And it's like, yeah, we can try that out. So we started with a couple small orders. We import everything from China. Started taking off, and it was like, wow, this is really something we didn't plan on, and we got more people interested. Hey, when you get more stuff in, and the demand became well more than the supply. Is still where we are today. We killed the software platform, and we moved forward with what we knew was working and what was driving more customers. And we still see the demand there, and as the cell phone repair industry grows, it's just never ending. Yeah, everybody's got more than one phone, or they've got 2 tablets, or every household's got multiple devices. So it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So I want to follow up that thread a little bit and open it up to whoever wants to start with this one. So the inputs that helped you know that the pivot you're headed towards was the right way. Aaron, you talked about having multiple market plans and having something in your original business model or plan to get there. And Josh, you talked about how mentor input and then scrapping the original website and the idea and really getting market feedback. What are your primary inputs that helped you guys that guide your decisions and make you, if it's not revenue and if it's not market share, what is it that kind of lets you know you're on the right path? Is there? Perfect.
I'm old enough to have gone to business school when feedback was expensive and slow and not very accurate. Like in the 80s and 90s, if you wanted to get feedback about your business, you had to hire Anderson Consulting, and it cost you millions of dollars, and the answers they gave you weren't any good. Sorry if you're here from Anderson Consulting. We now live in this world where it's instant, and you can really be kind of a ready, fire, aim kind of company, and that's counterintuitive, but it's and so and it kind of fits in with the lean model. And so we studied. I don't know if any of you ever look at Wayback Machine online. We love that because we look at companies and you can see pivots happen on the Wayback Machine. We learned that YouTube. The folks that invented YouTube it was supposed to be a dating site, and they didn't have enough money to finish anything but the video platform.
Good for them.
And so that's a beauty. So you're like, just getting it out there. You're like, instead of guys and girls making videos about each other,
right?
it's cats.
Yeah.
And, you know, now they're
Lots of cats.
but cats, you know, so anyway, those are, so feedback, like, I think if you're not always pivoting, you know, we talked about Twitter earlier, the 5 main things that happen on Twitter were invented by the community, right?
Yeah.
Retweet, Twitter didn't put a retweet, you know, hashtag, that's not Twitter's.
Yeah.
You know, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's.
Anybody, what about you guys? Anything else?
For us, you know, my background's in marketing, and we always looked at big brands and what they spent on celebrity endorsements. And we looked at the brand lift that you know, particular celebrities or athletes looked at it, and it's a natural fit. You know, athletes work out every day. You start Googling train like an athlete or train like this athlete or that athlete, the search results are there. So for us, it was pretty easy. That was really easy for us.
Yeah.
Now as we've gone into the collegiate model and into the high schools, we took our base model into those institutions and had some very open conversations with the administration, the coaching staffs and the strength trainers. And we're building to what the market actually needs versus what they're being offered today.
Chris?
Yeah, I'll share mine. You know, these guys, they make, I'm proud to be up here because they seem smart. They're like, you know, figuring stuff out as they go.
They talk well.
He's a marketer.
For my company, it was survival. It wasn't anything overly strategic. We had seen the opportunity for years. We had even tried to do it, but we could just never really get the momentum to get it done. And then my biggest customer, who was way more % of my revenue than he should have been, came to me and said, "Hey, we love you. You've been a great partner of ours for years, but we're going to in-house everything you do." And I was freaked out. And I saw immediately I had 2 options. I can downsize my company and try to find other customers and you know, keep doing it, or I could take these people who had so much expertise and experience and say, this is the time. You know, we've been wanting to do this forever. We can either be smaller and keep scrapping and clawing, or we can take this as the opportunity, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
It was really, it was survival. Now since then, you know, we are not by any stretch done. We've continued to pivot, and
Yeah.
you know, and I'd say there are more course corrections. You know, just like Kirk said, you know, we started with a vision of this for our product, and it
Right.
has already boiled down to just a few precious elements of it. So,
Yeah. Josh, what about
Yeah,
you
for
guys?
us, I think the biggest thing for us was revenue. I mean,
Yeah.
we'd already spent so much money on developing the website. We weren't happy with the end product. The company that we went with was dissolving, so they were going away. There wasn't much we could kind of push forward at that point. It's like, we'll leave it up for what it is, and we start seeing more competition coming along in the same space as the search directory. So it's like, why should we put more focus on this? We already see what we're capable of doing on the parts side. Let's continue pushing with this, and let's drive it up and scale it. And you know, it's, you know, the backing of our mentors has definitely helped, and that was probably the biggest push for us.
So, sounds very lean, you know, listen to your customers, drive, you know, follow revenue. What have there been either, you know, these magical pivots you've resisted, or have there been bad inputs where people have told you either, hey, you should go back to that older model, you shouldn't be running to something new, stay the course, persevere, or, you know, whether it's investors, potential investors, whether that, you know, what shiny pennies did you guys sort of shy away from, if you don't mind sharing, if there's anything that you've been sort of steered towards and said, that's not for us?
You know, for me, I had a meeting with the executive at BJC, and they told me kind of where the model was for pricing, and I said, after that, walked out of the meeting and went into sports. It's pretty much how it happened.
Yeah.
Like,
Just wasn't something you wanted to do.
And we're 5 to 10 years away from doing tele-rehab in the correct manner, and having federal billing and insurance billing for it, and the way that they have to do some telemedicine stuff now.
Yeah.
You know, it would take us $20-30 million to get to where we wanted to go, and that's just not going to happen in today's environment.
So not falling in love with your technology and feeling like that it's right around the corner, right? If the market's actually telling you it's going to take
Not be
longer.
emotionally attached to it.
Yeah, yeah. What about some of your other guys?
Yeah, I think Aaron's right. You know, if you think about like Netflix versus Blockbuster, you know, I think Netflix knew what was coming.
Yeah.
We just weren't ready. There was not enough infrastructure in 2009 to binge watch House of Cards. There wasn't enough bandwidth. There weren't the devices,
Right.
all those kind of things. But they knew where it was coming. So, like, where do you start? Well, you go build a bunch of. They started in a DVD world.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, if you read books like Peter Thiel's, you know, 0 to 1, he'll talk about, you know, getting into a clear, you know, make your own market, but you have to make it from the current box, you know. And so Netflix is a good example of one. They did this crazy DVD mailing thing that a lot of people, you know, still use, but it was building a brand for what they knew was coming.
Yeah.
And you know, and so some of that is like Aaron's like, you know, if it's 5 or 10 years away, you maybe can wait on it if you were one of the first people at Google and you just exited and you can raise $50 million for 5 years, like
Right.
the virtual reality guys and stuff
Right.
around Silicon Valley.
Right.
But that's you know, that doesn't exist around here. Like, hey, here's $25 or $30 million to play around with and find a market. You have to find it pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Right.
that doesn't exist, right? Chris?
Pivots that we didn't take, is that?
Maybe, yeah, or maybe attractive sort of options you could have moved towards that you just didn't feel like were right.
Our biggest challenge, since we were a professional services company, is that we had revenue coming in from professional services that we provided, but they were revenue streams that didn't really align with our product vision.
Okay.
And what was challenging for us is some of them really were kind of lost leaders in the beginning, and that was kind of easy to shed off and to realize that that's not going to help our vision. But some of them were relatively profitable. But you know, what we began to see consistently is the investors don't like to see companies who aren't laser focused. In fact, the fact that we haven't started a new company and actually closed our old company has not been. It's a story that I gotta explain every time. But they also don't like to see, even if it's revenue generating, they want to see you focused on the vision and the future, not on the old stuff. So that's been a challenge for us to slowly figure out how to live without that revenue and pass that off to somebody who can do it better than us.
Josh, anything?
Yeah, we had an opportunity, I would say March, April last year, to actually buy a bunch of equipment where there's a lot of people in the States that actually will refurbish broken screens. So, you know, if somebody's repairing them, as long as the LCD and the screen's still good, people will buy them back. Machines will peel off the glass, put new glass on them, and you know, kind of helps save some of the top end costs, giving them a bigger margin as a repair shop. Nobody really does it in the volume of being able to resell it to places, just enough for them to do their own repairs. And we had a friend, a colleague out in California that had a bad business deal with his partner, and they were splitting up, so he was looking to liquidate. It was like 2 or 3 months old equipment, and since it was already in the States and he'd already paid for all the shipping and the freight from China, we'd be saving a lot of money on it for him to want to get rid of it. And I thought about it for a long time. I was like, you know, I really want to do this, but at the same time, we're just now really starting to grow, and I don't want to lose the focus on what we are doing to try to learn something new and try to do that. And now in the last 6-7 months, the market in China's actually, prices have driven up. A lot more people are starting to do this refurbishing. So it's like, now that I missed the opportunity to potentially, you know, have something, and now, you know, I look back on it and I don't regret it that much, but at the same time, it's like, could I have bought it and then even just resold it and then made some money from somebody who was buying it anyway? So that's really been the only, you know, other opportunity. I mean, we've just been laser focused, like he was saying.
So hopefully you guys are thinking about your own questions. We'll open it up in just a second. I want to ask one more, though, to the group. You all have employees or co-founders or people you work with in your organization. So as founders, and you come across a pivot opportunity, and you know, internally, how do you reassure the folks that you're working with, whether they're a co-founder or employee, that this is the right path? If there's either disagreement or worry or concern, how have you guys handled that, or has that been an issue for you guys in your companies? Kirk, maybe so.
You know, I drove a long way home from the meeting where I decided to pivot. And I became more and more excited about it every mile marker. So I was fired up when I got in. And it was a drive from San Antonio to here, so it was a lot of mile markers. But I knew, well, here was the hard truth. They were either going to buy in at a sincere level, or I was going to have to change people. Like, your core team can't be there for a job. Like, there are plenty of places for them to get a job.
Right.
And that was tough, because this is going to sound silly, I've grown to love these people. Like,
Sure.
we work together every day. I know about their lives. I know about their, I care about them deeply. And I was like, it's my job to go in and get buy-in.
Yeah.
And I need to take the time to do it. And then I've got to not just wish the buy-in on them. Like, I've got to really vet and see if they've got it. And the ones that don't, like, I've got to be honest with them.
Right.
And say, look, we need to find another place for you.
And I would imagine you got to make that decision fairly quickly.
Yeah, like, I gave myself a week. Like, I've got to figure out, like, I know you're not going to buy in a week, but I sat down with them and I'm like, hey guys, I think we're going to pivot. I'm telling you what's coming. But let's spend a lot of time on it. Let's ask questions. Let's chew food together and
Yeah.
figure this out.
Yeah, yeah.
And,